Spirograph is the word that you're looking for in your head. You know the little toy that you used to play with as a kid where you felt like an architect and you draw all these different types of patterns? Well, that's what we have right here. These three paintings behind me represent some of the most expensive, frustrating, and time-consuming projects that I have ever made in my life. The software and the tools that I used to be able to create these were around $15,000. Now, it might seem simple to be able to slap some paint down on canvas and turn on the CNC machine and make these, but let me tell you, I went down quite the rabbit hole in order to get here, so let's go ahead and crack open what it actually takes to be able to make these paintings. Now, the software in particular that I used is called Carveco. It is the full version of Carveco, and it's what the world uses in order to make all of their coins. If you've ever touched a coin, you have more than likely touched something that has been made using Carveco software, and it's not a cheap software by any means. With that, I was able to use it to generate gouache patterns. So as a kid, if you ever used a spirograph and you put your pin down into one of those things and you created the entire pattern by not lifting up your pin, that is the gouache pattern. And it sounds very simple until you go to actually CNC machine something like that, and it can get really, really difficult. With the right tools, things are always easier. And I'm not saying that it's impossible without Carveco, but I am saying that doing things manually is going to be quite the pain. This one right here in particular is around 4,000 revolutions. These two right here are the exact same file, but with a few different key things that we're going to be going over. Now, I really wanted to make sure that this was different than what I had seen on Instagram, so I used oil paint instead of acrylic for mainly two reasons. First and foremost, I really wanted to make sure that it was not going to dry very quickly. Some of these patterns took over an hour on the CNC machine, and if you're in Georgia like me, it is incredibly hot in the shop, that paint actually can dry a whole lot faster than the CNC machine can get to it to spread it around on the canvas. So oil paint is going to have a lot longer drying time, even to the point where right now all of them are still wet and probably are going to be for a few weeks before they fully dry. So I've been really taking care not to touch them too much here in the shop. The second reason is going to be that I didn't want to muddy things up too quickly because oil paints and acrylics mix differently. Acrylics can touch each other, and then if you're doing a painting like that with thousands of revolutions, it can turn brown or black very, very quickly and muddy the whole painting together. But if you're using oil paints, you still get things connecting and touching each other, but they still maintain their color even when they're pushed with each other. There are a ton of these little dots right here that are my favorite things that I was able to create out of these three paintings because of the different colors that are all stuck together in little globs. I definitely think that oil was the way to go for me in particular. So on my CNC router, I put in a little pin holder. It's something that you can just universally slide any type of pin into and then tighten it down with some screws and use that to plot things out on your CNC machine. A lot of people use this to draw things, and there are a ton of different ways that you can use your CNC machine alongside a pen or pencil. But for me, I was just using it to draw out circles so that I would know where to put the paint down onto the canvas. Now, in order to do this, I was really afraid to use a pencil because I didn't want to damage the canvas too much. So I put on a Sharpie that had a brush tip on it and had a lot of nice flow to it. I really want to make sure that it wasn't gumming up or running out of ink at all, and it worked out really, really well. One thing that I definitely did learn with a canvas this big is to zero my Z off of the center of the canvas, because naturally there's going to be a dip in the canvas because not all canvases are going to be stretched to the same tension. Next up, I tried a ton of different ways about putting the paint into the circles. Like I said, these first two files are the exact same. I just changed the step down for my brushes. And the first one, I absolutely love this. I don't think that this is anybody else's favorite, but it's definitely mine. And this one, I got a little bit closer, but I had zeroed my Z off of the corner and not the very center, which is a little bit lower than everything else, which meant that I didn't get full contact with the paint. This one being my third try, I definitely knew what I needed to do, and I put on a ton more circles where I was going to put in the paint. I also went ahead and painted the entire background so that it would be a lot darker. A, so it would look better on video to be able to show off what it was actually doing, but B, I thought that it was going to make for a lot better painting with a lot more white in the painting overall. I noticed that some of these colors were really starting to muddy and everything was getting a lot darker, so I went ahead and put in a ton of white on this one, and I was very, very pleased with the results. Now, I will say that because that one had so many revolutions, I wish that I would have run it about half as long as I did. I had a ton more colors in this, and at the end of it, it looks more like a peach than anything else, when in reality it could have looked way more colorful and vibrant, and I'm definitely going to try this specific file out again. I'm telling y'all, this whole thing has sent me down a rabbit hole where I'm considering getting a 4x8 or even a 5x10 machine so that I can create massive gouache pattern paintings. It's a really interesting thing to be able to do something in the shop that is fairly unique. I'm not saying that I'm the first person to create a gouache painting by any means, but I haven't seen a ton of stuff out there. So I do think that because the barrier to entry is incredibly high, that it's not going to have a ton of people out there creating these things and putting them out for sale. Now, a whole lot of people are going to say a robot made that. That should just be for $80 at TJ Maxx, and good on you. But the fact that it took so long for me to create these, I actually am going to sell them, but I don't expect them to sell anytime soon because they are going to be a much higher ticket item, specifically because it's just really hard to ship a 4x4 painting. So if you are interested in one of these, they will be listed down below, and as I make more, I'll be adding more to that listing as well. Now, for all of you CNC with me members, let's jump into what this actually means for y'all. Because I talked with Mitz and we created 7 of these different gouache patterns for you to be able to play around with, and also turn those gouache patterns into STL files as well. So you can play around with all these things without ever having to own Carveco. And the one that we have Carveco and Vectric and DXF and SVG files for in particular is going to be set up for MDF so that you can carve this, and you could even put in a paintbrush if you wanted to. I'll have the complete toolpath tutorial available on cncwithme.com if you are interested. Now, this one in particular, I think has been universally everybody's favorite on Instagram. I kind of am halfway on it because I saw what it could have been. So to end up with this being like a large peach, I think it's fine, but I don't think it's the best that it could be. I definitely see the most room for improvement in this one in particular. I'm going to be calling this one the Peach Pit, and the other ones look a little bit more like donuts. This one I'm calling Not Google because I think it honestly looks like an abstract version of Google's logo. So if anybody knows somebody who works at Google and knows somebody who actually wants to put these up in their office, check out the links down below. This one was my very first painting that I tried, and I used a brush. It was a round brush and it had a point to it. And I set my Z depth, and then I set my step down to 1/4 of an inch. What that meant was that the very top of the brush was interacting with the globs of paint that I put down, but not the rest of the brush. Not enough where it was fully smearing the paint, but it was still picking paint up and it was dragging it along. I absolutely love the finished result on this. The footage does not look great. The footage leaves you not satisfied. You really want to be able to see the glob of paint fully smear, and I definitely understand that. But the end result, I think, was absolutely perfect. Donut Sprinkles is definitely my favorite out of the 3, and it is also going to take the longest to dry. If I were to do it again, specifically like this, where I was just touching the very top of it, I would definitely double the amount of paint places I was putting down. But for my very first attempt, I could not be more pleased with how this one turned out. So out of these 3, which one is your favorite? I had such a blast creating these, and like I said, I'm going to still create more of them as I have time here in the shop. If you're somebody out there and you really like these paintings and you have a massive wall, not only the room but the budget to be able to have 9 of these paintings in a 3x3 configuration, I have such a good idea, but no space for it, and honestly no need to be able to create it. So I'll cut you a deal if you're somebody out there who wants to be able to create something like that. I've got an idea. Thank you so much for joining me today, and also thank you so much to all of the CNC With Me members. Without y'all, none of this would be possible, and I get to be able to create some really strange stuff that I enjoy, and hopefully y'all are learning some stuff from it along the way. Remember, all of the files are available over on cncwithme.com for you to jump over and download right now. Also for CNC With Me members, Design Collab has started up. Charlie, who's one of the moderators, has started this group where if you have an idea for a product and you'd like to figure out how to get that all the way to the end in the most optimized way, or be able to get feedback on something that you're creating, Design Collab is specifically for you. Very, very happy that Charlie started that up over there. So it's available for any CNC With Me members, not only to join live, but also you can watch them as recorded sessions as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by today. I really hope that you enjoyed this one. Please let me know down in the comments below which one of these is your favorite, and I will be seeing y'all next Friday. Bye.